When you hear terms like toxic masculinity, there's nothing toxic about being masculine.
Yeah.
If this
What do you
building
mean by
was,
that?
if this building was on fire,
Yeah.
would you want passive firemen to come in here eating donuts, relax? No, you want men full of masculine attributes, courage,
Yeah.
strength, boldness, kicking down doors and carrying us out of here to safety. So there's nothing toxic about masculinity. What has happened is we've allowed that one word to define manhood. It's just an adjective, attributes traditionally ascribed to men as strength, boldness, and aggression. It was never meant to be a comprehensive definition of what it means to be a man. And so when you pigeonhole men into just two attributes of life, and then you look at the stats which say we die by suicide almost 4 times as likely as women. We commit almost 90% of homicides in this country. 9 out of 10 people to live to be over 100 are women. What has happened to men is that we're not tired of living, we're tired of not living.
Let him cook.
Really hitting it off, I'll try to hold their hand.
I'm threatened right now just hearing about this.
Yeah.
Why?
Unwanted touch this early? I think without asking, I don't know. It makes me uncomfortable.
Well, I asked for permission to like hold their hand. I'm like, can I hold your hand?
Sometimes if you ask, the asking alone is unconsensual. Because then once you ask, the woman feels pressure to give in and let you touch her hand.
So then how do you get consent?
You just have to know.
Yeah.
But isn't that going around consent by just...
So you should know by reading her mind whether she wants you to ask to hold her hand.
Right.
How do I read her mind?
It's not my job to educate you.
Why? What the hell was that?
Did all that talking in circles just to come to no solution whatsoever for that man. Y'all slow. I really think y'all slow.
You must unlearn what you have learned.
What's going on, YouTube? It's your boy Ron back with another video. If you're new to the platform, welcome to the tribe. By the end of this video, I hope you subscribe. So I got a video for you guys, and I'm gonna be honest with you. I'm like so tempted to hit her with the bonnet crew, but from what I can tell, I don't think it's a bonnet, so we're gonna let it slide today. But if y'all think different in the comments, let me know. Anyway, bro, she's having a discussion about saying that if women were to stop trying to emasculate men, then she thinks things would be a lot better as far as relationships and such goes. At least was what I can tell from the first few seconds of me watching this video. So I thought I would share it with you guys because it's a pretty long video. I think it's almost 10 minutes long. And I got a few other shorter videos that I want to show you guys afterwards. So I'm going to do my best to pretty much let this ride. I might stop it maybe once or twice depending on what I hear, but either way I'm going to share my thoughts, and please share your thoughts as well in the comments. Without further ado, let's go ahead and get into it.
If we stop emasculating men, we would have fewer problems with them objectifying us, and this is something that is covered in the Queen's Code. Now I mean that as a general statement because there are some creeps, there are some wackos, there are some just terrible men out there, but we're talking about in healthy relationships and healthy engagements. And this is also true with young men, like little boys. And I think that the more we lean into not trying to make men feel powerless on purpose, and I'm not like, because there are things, men may have their own insecurities, right? And it has nothing to do with you. But we have to be honest, there is something that we are doing in our culture and as women that we are doing to intentionally make men feel powerless. We are intentionally trying to strip them of their power. And a lot of times women will say things like, well, that's impossible because there's a patriarchy. But here's what I mean. You can make a man feel powerless just with your words. Like you can degrade him, you can demean him, you can do this to your husband, you can do this to your boyfriend, you can do this to your brother, your uncle, you can even do this to your sons and little boys that you interact with. So it's so important that we start to learn this because there's this push and pull, and sometimes we don't realize why it's happening. And sometimes we as women think that it has nothing to do with us, but sometimes it actually does. And so this is all generally speaking, like I said, this is talking about like healthy men, and the difference between, well, the connection between emasculating men and then men in turn objectifying women. And sometimes it's very subtle, but I wanted to read this because I think that is interesting, and it kind of goes with the conversation of decentering men. So this is coming from the Queen's Code, and I'm going to start with this question. So the granddaughter asks, Grandmother Claudia, are you implying that giving up emasculating men will prevent them from objectifying me? Bert was curious how Claudia would respond. He knew what he would say. Claudia nodded. For the most part, yes. If you're not using your assets to emasculate, he will naturally appreciate your beauty, sexuality, intellect, humor, needs, etc. If he can keep his power, he will not be overwhelmed by yours. He will not be triggered to objectify you. She added intently, and if he is triggered, the solution is to give him more power, not take it away. Now, a lot of us might hear that and cringe. Like, why would I give a man who's already power hungry more power? Why would I give a man who's already objectifying me more power? And I think it's just listen to what she's saying and try to hear her out from a wholehearted perspective. She says, Karen held up a finger in a wait signal, and Bert watched her furiously scribbling. She's taking notes. It tickled him that Claudia paused while Karen's note-taking was satisfied. When finished, Karen said, you said something disturbing. The solution is to give him more power. What did you mean by that? Why would we want to give a man more power? Pause for a second, because I think that the dialogue in this book, it's very affirming in a way that you realize people can actually have tough conversations without insulting people, without being mean, without being sarcastic. Because oftentimes in this book, Claudia, the elder woman, will say things that seem to be disturbing or off-putting to the younger ladies, and they don't react in anger. They don't react out of bitterness or feeling like they need to hold on to something. They're not being super offended by what she's saying. They ask clarifying questions, and that keeps the conversation going. So instead of her saying something like, why would I give him more power? That's stupid. She said, you said something disturbing. The solution is to give him more power. What did you mean by that? Why would we want to give a man more power? She's asking the same question. She could be outraged inside, but the way that she presented the question allows the conversation to move forward without anybody feeling offended or feeling like they have to defend themselves for the rest of the conversation.
Well, if this book was being used as a way to show functional communication, without all the BS, then yeah, I can understand that. But realistically speaking, I mean, obviously that's the reason why she brought it up, because I think she realizes that in reality, most women, or at least majority women, probably wouldn't respond the way that is depicted in this book that she's referring to. However, I do agree where she's coming from with that, because it would be nice to be able to have that kind of tough conversations without it coming across as like, yeah, without all the, ad hominem attacks back and forth and all the bullshit. But let's keep it moving.
So Claudia sighed and patted Bert's shoulder, because the more power your partner has, the more power you both have.
I like this one.
Claudia said, smiling at him. She turned back to Karen, and Bert watched Kimberly, who sat in rapt attention. Now, mind you, what she said makes sense. The more power that you give to the man that you're married to, the less he feels the need to compete with you. And if he doesn't feel the need to compete with you, all of that energy that he would spend trying to compete with you, he can just put it into protecting, providing, shining as he is. And that's not to say that you giving him power is making you weaker. It actually makes you stronger. Like she said, if you just resist the urge to compete with a man, all of the energy that y'all would use competing and combating with one another, you use to prosper.
I don't know about y'all, but it sounds like she's literally describing submission. That's what it sounds like to me. Giving up control, letting your man be a man, quit emasculating him, and let him do what he's supposed to do. And if he ain't doing it, then find another one. I don't know. Maybe that's too much like right, but let's keep it moving.
And so, because if you give him enough power to handle you, he will not feel overwhelmed and need to steal yours through objectification. Claudia concluded, because there's no alternative, men and women are going to both be powerful or both be weak. That's just how it works. Kimberly gasped, her eyes wide yet again. Yes, dear, Claudia asked. Kimberly looked from Claudia to Bert shyly. He nodded encouragement, feeling incredibly privileged to witness this conversation. Not merely a witness, he thought. I'm part of it. He's proud because he's a man that's being welcomed into this conversation about how women and men show up, and then he's actually helping the women to understand men better, and nobody's making him feel bad, nobody's over talking him, nobody's being demeaning or disrespectful, they're just listening intently to his input. So if I told the truth, Kimberly began, every time I've emasculated a man, though I felt glee in the moment, it reinforced my own feelings of weakness. Since I always did it out of fear or frustrations, that's what got magnified. And I will say, think about the times that you want to strip a man of his power. Why do you feel the need to do that? Oftentimes it's in defense. Oftentimes it's because we feel slighted, or we feel insulted, or we feel like they're doing something to make us feel powerless. So that's how we snatch our power back. So there was an example in this book where one of the men at Kimberly's job, he was like, yes, like he got a really big sale, and he was kind of celebrating in his corner. And one of the women got up and she said, yeah, but you're still behind for the quarterly quota. And then she watched him as he got sad and got back in his cubicle. And then she looked around at the other women, like satisfied that they had poked and deflated him. And so in that interaction, him celebrating, maybe it made her feel like, oh, he shouldn't be celebrating. He's such a macho man. You know, like you can think about it in that regard. So really think about the last time that you did something to make a man feel powerless, in instances, or when you're having a conversation with your boyfriend or your husband and you say something to him that you know is going to hurt him. Why are you saying it? Is most of the time it's because you're trying to take the power back in the conversation. So that's the conversation that we're having, and that's the frame of reference that she's talking about.
Damn, that's actually a really great example, bro. Like it kind of, she low key made me want to get this book, man. It ain't even for me for real, but that's definitely valid. Cause think about it, man. All these women that are volunteering to come on all these podcasts with these men that you know are well-to-do to have these discussions, and the reason why they're doing it is because they're trying to take the power back in the conversation. So they'll go to these men's podcasts that they know got some clout, you know, got some wealth, got some resources, because deep down they know those are the men that got a little bit of power, and they want to humble those men. So they are willingly going on these podcasts with the sole purpose and intention of trying to belittle them and make them feel less powerful. I'm like, cause otherwise, why feel the need to voluntarily keep coming on these podcasts? What are you doing it for? Unless you're just trying to get exposed to, you know, the small percentage of guys that y'all would probably call incels or whatever the case may be, because those are the guys that are probably going to buy your OnlyFans or something. But outside of that, what are you really going on there for? Let's keep it moving.
So Claudia nodded and briefly squeezed Kimberly's hand. Excellent observation. Emasculation leaves you both disempowered, just like objectification from the man's perspective leaves both of you disempowered. It makes the man feel like he's empowered, but he also probably deep down feels like a creep, because you had to resort to objectifying this woman to feel more powerful. And now in you doing that, now she feels degraded and disrespected. In the same way, emasculating a man, you had to resort to trying to strip him of his power, demeaning him, breaking him down so that you could feel better. And now he feels terrible. So this signal is clear. Thank you, Karen Kimberly. He gave a slight bow. Sorry. This is Bert leaving the conversation. It's been a pleasure being part of this discussion. Sweetheart, I'm getting some coffee. Do you care for any? This man loves his wife, like he's always catering to her. They all declined and thanked him. He squeezed Claudia's shoulder and took his leave. Karen studied Kimberly as Bert went inside. Compared to when they began their lessons only 10 days before, Kimberly had less of the tough gal, scared rabbit look about her, the strange combination of offense and defense that many women have. She seemed calmer, happier, and more powerful in a quiet, not needing to prove it type of way. She was infinitely more attractive and pleasant to be around. So she's implying that these conversations that they've been having about men and learning the things that they've been learning, to be less on guard and to be more relaxed as women, and to not take everything so offensively, not to wear your heart on your sleeve type things. She's softening in her appearance. She's not physically doing anything to change her appearance, but that demeanor from within is changing her. And this is why I always say that femininity is an inside job before it's outside, because a lot of people will put on the external femininity thing. You put on the external femininity qualities. You do your makeup, you do your skincare, your nails are nice, you put on the nice clothes, but then internally you're so hardened, right? And you're so like offended by everything, and that causes you to have like this bitter delivery or this resentment towards men. and all of the beautiful external things in femininity is canceled out by the hardened interior. So I think that was an interesting observation too. She says, is this what happened when Claudia first came into my life? No wonder Mike couldn't resist me. It must be happening again, if last night is any indication. And so what she's referring to is, what's interesting is when Kimberly met Karen, she was smitten by the way that Karen's husband was so enamored by her, like the way that he looked at her, the way that he engaged with her. And that's what made her want to learn these things. But Karen is now looking at Kimberly in the same way, like, oh my goodness, she looks so feminine and beautiful, and I've never seen her like this. And I wonder if this is what my husband was seeing in me. So it's just a really interesting tale. It's a great read. I would say, you kind of have to put your offense on the back burner to enjoy it. But I did talk about this a little bit more in the last podcast episode, if you're curious. And this is coming from The Queen's Code by Allison A. Armstrong.
Well, for the 10% of women that watch my channel, bro, if that's up your alley, I'm gonna be honest with you, not for me, but definitely sounds like a good read from the way she described it. Anyway, let me get to these other couple clips that I want to share with you guys. Let's keep it moving.
Women talk about, I don't need a man, I'm independent. Yes, because they send the system at you. If a man doing something to me, I can call the police on him. They always send the system at you. And they smart enough to know this same system I'm sending at this man is the system that destroyed my whole family. This system I'm sending at this man, because me and him got in an argument, me and him had a baby, whatever. This is the system that gave me more disease than anybody.
So why are we having it now in this way? What is the temperature out there?
I believe we reached a tipping point in regards to masculinity and manhood. Men are tired of being just providers and protectors. We desire a life more fulfilling. And then also, I believe society is kind of disregarding the men, meaning how we feel and our roles in life. Frederick Douglass said it's easier to raise children than it is to repair broken men. Although that's true, I believe we're leaving men broken, and that wasn't his intention as well from that quote.
I have to tell you, I wrote my first children's book, and I had the protagonist be a little boy, and I had this conversation. I was on The View, and I said, listen, as an empowered woman, I benefited from society saying, let's lift up girls. I mean, like I said, Wonder Woman had me thinking I could fly a clear plane, and I benefited from it. And then I had a son, and I started to feel like boys are left behind. And it was tough for me to say it because I had some friends who identify themselves as feminists say, wait a minute, the world has put us down so long. And I said, but we can't leave them behind to lift us up. And that was I had some hard conversations with people, because when you say boys are being left behind or men aren't being supported emotional, some people still believe, well, men have benefited.
We haven't benefited. It was a facade. We wear the cape like we're superheroes, but that cape is strangling us. And it starts from childhood. We're told big boys don't cry. Then when we get older, no pain, no gain. And then what doesn't kill you can only make you stronger. So I call those misleading mantras, and it's deceived us, actually hoodwinked us into a false manhood, something that's not comprehensive. We are also nurturers. We are also lovers. We're gentlemen. We're kind. We're compassionate. But at the same time, we're courageous.
Yeah.
And so when you hear terms like toxic masculinity, there's nothing toxic about being masculine.
Yeah.
If this
What do you
building
mean by
was,
that?
if this building was on fire, would you want passive firemen to come in here eating donuts, relax? No, you want men full of masculine attributes, courage, strength, boldness, kicking down doors and carrying us out of here to safety. So there's nothing toxic about masculinity. What has happened is we've allowed that one word to define manhood. It's just an adjective, attributes traditionally ascribed to men as strength, boldness, and aggression. It was never meant to be a comprehensive definition of what it means to be a man. And so when you pigeonhole men into just two attributes of life, and then you look at the stats which say we die by suicide almost 4 times as likely as women. We commit almost 90% of homicides in this country. 9 out of 10 people to live to be over 100 are women. What has happened to men is that we're not tired of living, we're tired of not living.
They so
It sounds like what he's describing,
Bang.
and as weird as this
Shit like
sounds,
that,
is
shit like that,
exactly
shit like
what
that, shit like that.
women were fighting for 60, 50 years ago. To be seen more is just what they are valued by traditionally. Women have been fighting for years to get away from that traditional box, and they still are, even though they still require from us. And from what I heard, he said men are tired of being seen as just providers and protectors. And when you pigeonhole us into those two categories and that's it, this is one of the reasons why women outlive men so much. Is because in order for us to do that, we pretty much have to sacrifice years off of our lives in order for them to be in a position to do just that. And I think, like mentioned in the earlier video, this is one of the problems where it seems like women don't feel satisfied unless they have a man that is willing to put himself down in order to lift her up. I don't think there's nothing wrong with uplifting the people around you. You feel me? Especially, your circle, your loved ones, people you care about and all that. But it shouldn't be at your own detriment. That's all I'm going to say about that. I think that's more than fair. But y'all let me know what you think, man. If you're new to the platform, please subscribe. OGs, I appreciate the love and support. Make sure y'all hit that bell notification. That way y'all know what I'm uploading. Hit the like button because that helps with the algorithm and helps me reach a broader audience. Also, look out for the travel vlog channel and live channel. Both links are in the description. Until the next video, y'all. Deuces.